Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, there's a reason why Donald Trump always ends up winning in the end, and I'm sure he'd call it the art of the deal. What it boils down to is that Donald Trump understands that leadership isn't about optics. It's not about pretending and acting for the cameras, just so the corrupt press can write all kinds of glowing reviews. It's about power, leverage, and actually delivering results. And that's exactly what he's doing. At least that's what I believe he's doing. Sure, we're in a little bit of some shaky water right now, but at least I can still see the light at the end of the tunnel. I see where we're going. The whole purpose is to weather the storm. The purpose is to get to the end. And the most important thing is that I could tell that Donald Trump is genuine. He's serious. He's not looking to go out there and masquerade. In this case, on this diplomatic trip for the Pope's memorial, he's not going there just to shake hands and smile for the photos and do a bunch of photo ops. Donald Trump is going there to win. And today's clip that has all these leftoids totally outraged. Oh no, Donald Trump is a bully. Donald Trump just absolutely mogged Emmanuel Macron. There's a viral clip currently bouncing around the internet where Donald Trump basically kicks the president of France out of a meeting with Zelensky in order to get Zelensky one-on-one. And of course, the left is throwing an absolute hissy fit. But this right here goes right into the point I'm trying to make. This guy's not playing games. He's not engaging in this fake diplomatic bullshit. He's there to get a deal done, and he's removing the dead weight, even if that means the press is going to attack him for it. I gotta show you guys this moment. It's just absolutely legendary. It is peak Donald Trump. It's basically like this clip, but in this case, the stakes are a whole lot higher. Alright folks, so here's a clip that has everybody talking. This happened at Pope Francis's memorial. There was a moment where Donald Trump was to sit down with Volodymyr Zelensky, and the event organizers had 3 chairs laid out. One for Trump, one for Zelensky, and one for Emmanuel Macron. And well, Trump walks in, takes one look at the setup, and instantly flips the script. Take a look. He basically tells Macron, get the hell out of here, man. You are not going to be part of this. I'm sitting down with Zelensky for a one-on-one. And of course, Emmanuel Macron then turns around and walks away with his tail tucked between his legs. And then to add insult to injury, there's a photo that's then later captured where Macron's chair gets physically removed from the scene. Absolutely based. At least it's based if he's doing it for the purpose that I think he is, which I think he is. We've got this piece here from The Sun, where they supposedly consulted with a Lipreader, and the Lipreader drops his theory on what he thinks was said. Don't mess around. Lipreader reveals Trump's 5-word warning to Macron moments before mini-peace summit with Zelensky at Pope's funeral. Professional Lipreader Nicola Hickling analyzed the interaction between the world leaders and told The Sun Donald Trump reaches his hand out to both of them and brings them towards him. Classic Trump power move. And he says to Macron, you are not in the right here. You need to do me a favor. You should not be here. Zelensky then nods in agreement, and the Vicar, who is in front of the camera, turns his head to the side, looking worried at what he has heard between them. And so basically, Trump told little Emmanuel, pack your bags and take a hike, kiddo. This is way above your pay grade. And I'm loving what they're calling this. They're calling this Trump's mini-peace summit. And obviously, Donald Trump's view is that Emmanuel Macron should not have been there. He doesn't view his presence as necessary and probably views the inclusion of Emmanuel Macron as counterproductive to the end goal. And I don't blame him in the least. But of course, the second that happened, the mainstream media is losing their frickin' minds. Once again, every leftoid on X is talking about how Donald Trump is disrespecting global leaders and bringing shame to America, embarrassing America. The same old tired script. But here's the thing, it's not about disrespect. It's about reality. Trump is there to do a job, to end a catastrophic war, and so he doesn't have time to babysit the fragile egos of irrelevant European figureheads. Macron's presence is useless and counterproductive. The president of France doesn't represent anything that Trump needs. And really, I'm tired of these European leaders asserting themselves. You know, here's a point in my mind that the media will never admit. These European leaders are not equals, not even close. Macron is basically a governor of a European province. The European Union as a whole is maybe the closest comparison you're going to get to the United States, but obviously even then it's not a one-for-one. Emmanuel Macron is a leader of one state in the European Union. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He's the one funding Ukraine, and doing it with grants, by the way, not with loans, as the Europeans are collecting their money back, or at least expecting to. Not to mention the American economy and defense spending is carrying NATO and funding European defense. They're just not equals, and it's time for the President of the United States to assert himself. Trump isn't disrespecting Macron, he's telling him very clearly, get out of the way. And honestly, it's about damn time. You know, in my view, that's how real diplomacy should work. It's tough, it's uncomfortable. Maybe it doesn't look pretty and maybe some people get offended, but the whole purpose is to get results. And for too long, the Europeans have stood in the way. They've sabotaged and stood in the way of peace. And this administration is making it very, very clear that they are 100% steadfast, determined to use diplomacy to end this war. Don't take it from me, take it from the Trump administration.
How iconic. That setting, that scene, that meeting is going to go down in the history books for President Trump to be a president of peace, to be talking peace and diplomacy in the Vatican of all places, just before we were able to walk out and the president sat with world leaders, people of all faiths, hundreds of thousands in the crowd. And the thing he was determined to do was to talk to Zelensky face to face and talk about how we're going to get the largest land war in Europe to an end. Both sides have to want that. He's expressed his frustration with both sides, but yet his determination. And if you go back to, we're 100 days in, just 100 days ago, Biden and his team had no end in sight. This was an endless war. This was a meat grinder of men and material and national treasure that really he had never defined victory. And President Trump is determined to use diplomacy to bring this war to an end, to talk to both sides. And just in 100 days, we've had multiple rounds led by Secretary of State Rubio, by Ambassador Steve Witkoff in Saudi Arabia, and now in the Vatican. And it was just truly special to stand there with other world leaders looking on as the President Trump led the way.
That's exactly it, and that's why Trump is making these moves. He's making a power play here, and he's getting all the detractors and all the distractions out of the frickin' way. And sure, we've got all the naysayers in the media claiming that Donald Trump's being played, or he said he was going to bring an end to the war on day one, and it still hasn't happened yet. But the simple fact of the matter here is, at least he's trying. And he's a whole lot closer than Joe Biden ever got, that's for sure. Joe Biden, who didn't even have his mental faculties together, and it was just signing the blank checks from Congress to continue funding this never-ending war. At least Donald Trump is engaging in diplomacy. At least he's flexing American power to get the job done. And you may not like it, or you may not think it's happening fast enough, but at least he's doing something. And mark my words, if Trump stays this course, at least in my opinion, we will see either a full-on ceasefire or the beginnings of real peace in the region by the end of his second term here. And when that happens, that's what's going to get logged in the history books. Not all the naysayers or all the reports from CNN and MSNBC that are currently going on and on, droning on and on about Donald Trump's first 100 days in office, his 100-day report card, where they're basically casting him as a failure because of slight market fluctuations. Sure, maybe we might be seeing a slight dip in his approval ratings, but exactly like I said in the intro, if you're looking at this stuff honestly and what the actual play here is, what the Trump administration is trying to do, you could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't see how you could possibly give this administration a failing grade in their first 100 days, considering what they're cooking up. It may be a slow cooking process, it's a slow simmer, but you gotta give credit where credit is due if Trump ends up pulling this off. If he ends up realigning global trade to the benefit of the American economy and American middle-class worker, and if he ends up ending the war in Ukraine, which of course is going to be great for the markets as well, he's going to be one of the most successful presidents of all time. And clearly that's what he's trying to do, and he's getting this French leader clown out of the way so he could get that job done. And in my view, that's what real leadership looks like. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.